So the goal of this project is really to introduce the kids to science and technology and how we use that to manage wetlands. And the really neat thing about it is the science and the technology that we use is really simple. Simple enough for school kids, for school children to track and to actually help us manage this system. The pond system that we have built here requires a lot of attention in terms of the way we move and the way we manage the water. So understanding the water quality is really important. So we have a bunch of sensors set up, and the sensors are set up to continuously upload information about the water quality, about the weather and the climate around this area, and to upload it into a database. We then use that database to make management decisions based on what's happening with the water, what's happening with the environment, and that helps us to manage the bird populations. And the goal of this project is to aid in the recovery of these water bird species. So creating the optimal habitat for them to nest in is important. And any way we can integrate science, technology, and the management we do with learning and bringing school kids out here is very important. The other good thing is they're able to look at the information and the data that we're collecting on the internet. So they have constant access to our project, which really makes us, it gives us the ability to bring them out to the site and also to bring the site to them. And that's really important to keep them engaged and keep them understanding what's happening with Kawainui Marsh and what projects we're doing here to make this place a success.
Well, I learned that there are some invasive species that kill the plants and birds here, and they're not good. And just now, we saw a mongoose put to sleep, and we learned that a mongoose is not very good because it eats the birds' eggs, and it also eats the birds. And also, there are some plants that are viney, and they choke the other plants, the native plants. And when we went over there, we saw that there was not much native plants, but more invasive plants.
Push, yeah, you gotta push. Yeah, reverse. Pull them back. Yeah, then go left.
This is a very important ecosystem and an important habitat for our native species, and there's not a lot of habitat left. And so, exposure and seeing what's happening out here is really key to what we want to project to the public and say, we have resources, we have valuable resources that we're trying to protect, and we don't want to keep them out of it. We want to encourage them to be here in a controlled setting, and we want to give them the right information so that they understand how to protect it, how to preserve it. These kids, they may not grow up to become conservationists, but they may grow up to become president or legislators, and having that knowledge is really important for us to keep our jobs going and keep the progress that we're going with this resource management.
So we've learned about how it's important to keep the plants and animals that are native to the islands of Hawaii safe and alive because they grew, when they were first here, they were living in a non-predative environment, so they had no predators, so they were grown to have no defenses. So it's important to protect them because they're kind of defenseless against invasive species. We're also learning about what kind of equipment is needed to help keep the invasive species away from the native species, and we're getting to have a field experience instead of maybe looking in a textbook and reading passages. So this is a lot better than a regular, stay in class and do regular work.
I learned about the importance of Kawainui Marsh. I learned that it's important to save the native birds, because if they die out, then there will be no more, because native means that it's only found in Hawaii and found nowhere else. And so the purpose of Kawainui Marsh is to help the birds reproduce and to make more babies. The mud is actually pretty nice. I thought it would be really, really dirty and stuff, but it's actually pretty cool here.